and they don't make it easy.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I used OBS, and that was a little confusing when I used it once.
That's actually what I'm using right now. It is confusing. So let's see. I think we may be live.
Hello? We are live!
Oh, we're live. They don't make it easy.
Whoa. Do it!
Yeah.
Can
I used
anyone hear me?
OBS, and that was a little confusing when I used it once.
That's
Okay, I can hear you. I unmuted it.
all right. Yeah, you guys
Hey,
might want to
if
mute
you're-
your
if you're-
YouTube.
If your sound card does crazy stuff like John's does, you might want to make sure we don't all sound like chipmunks.
I don't know. Do we sound like chipmunks? Can everyone on the chat room hear us all right? Oh yeah, you guys might want to turn your speakers down too.
Yep, just did. Just got it.
That's a heck of a delay, huh?
That's pretty funny.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Aaron got me all self-conscious about the sound, though. Okay, I think I'm good.
Oh wow, this is wild. Check out. I know a lot of these folks from online. That's fun.
Isn't that
It's
weird?
fun.
It's a small community. You're
It's
looking at it like,
fantastic.
hey, I'm actually going to. While we
I saw
chat-
Chris Bayes in there. Chris, I was actually thinking of emailing you this morning. I realized I owe you an email still. I'll send that later.
They're stalking you on YouTube to make sure you do what you're supposed to. I know Aaron's gonna be on YouTube later.
Find him!
All right, so while we get ready, everyone in the room, thanks for joining us. Looks like we've got 54 people so far, which is pretty sweet. Hope everyone's got a cocktail. I'm drinking port wine, actually, because that's just what I do. Aaron, are you
Nice.
drinking a cocktail after your eventful week?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I got a glass of ice water right now because it's been a long day.
I'm sure, man. I'm sure. I'm trying to. I'm gonna throw up the chat room. My second monitor is not working, so I'm gonna throw it up on a separate computer, just so that I don't have to. You guys don't have to see the chat as I'm looking at the chat. All right. So, people were chiming in on where they're from, which is kind of cool.
Awesome.
We've got people from everywhere: Denver, Austin, Texas, Honolulu, Orlando, Florida, Indiana, Arizona, Germany. That's Germany. It's like 11 o'clock there. Nice. You guys are awesome. Thanks for showing up. This is cool. This is pretty sweet. I'm actually surprised at how fast this chat room is going here.
Awesome.
So for those of you watching, sorry for the delay. I shouldn't say we. I should say I. I didn't realize that I had Skype Personal installed instead of Skype Business, which doesn't allow us to share screens. And so I installed Skype, but Microsoft doesn't make it easy. So I think I installed all of the new Office apps at the same time. So I may have a brand new package of Office now as well, and it took a little longer than I wanted. But what are you gonna do?
That's awesome.
Oh, by the way-
London. We have somebody from London. I love it.
London.
London.
Nice. We got London. I think I saw someone from Poland as well earlier,
Awesome. Awesome.
which is pretty sweet. That must be what is it? They're 5 hours or 6 hours ahead. They're pretty far ahead.
Someone said they're at midnight right now.
Nice. Well, cool. They must really want to hear what you guys need to say. All right. So let me just pull up the stream so I can read. Oh, by the way, I guess while I'm doing this,
what's that?
I wanted to show.
Oh no, we're all here. Yeah.
I wanted
Hey,
to-
so hey
What's
Jeff,
that?
I have to interrupt for a second. So there's not a way for me to turn on the camera, is there?
I think there is actually. Hold on. Can you, if you have one, I think you can turn it on and I can show the screen.
So do I just do it in Skype for Business?
Do it in
right?
Skype and I'll just launch it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna hijack, and then we can totally get into Dynamo in 1 second.
You
Hold
got
on.
it.
Let's
Oh,
see
there's
here.
John.
Where is
There's
it?
John.
Here we go, camera. Okay.
Hold
Well,
on a
all of you who are, let's see, camera.
Let's see.
I
Stop
see.
my-
It's trying.
It's doing something.
Oh, I know what's going on. I need to switch the camera. Hold on.
Oh, it's in the laptop.
Yeah. Yes.
How many cameras do you have there?
Too many. How do I do this? Okay, sorry. Well, we'll go back to what we're doing, and I'll figure out how to fix my camera. It's over here. Settings. video device. Here we go. Integrated webcam, Pro 9000. I bet you that's going to show a picture now.
Something's
Maybe.
happening. Something's happening on Skype.
Something's happening. So yeah, we're live and we're having all kinds of tech issues because what would three guys who work in tech be able to do to mitigate that?
I think everyone on the line understands that it doesn't matter.
Start my video. Well, then.
Oh, there we are. There you are.
There we go.
Let me full screen.
Not to hijack the conversation, but my lovely wife and I would like to introduce you all to the newest Parallax person.
Hey.
Awesome.
This is Adeline Lee, who is 2 days old. Oh, and she's thrilled to be at the computer.
Oh my goodness.
Hopefully we got a good feed here. Let me make sure everyone can see.
She's got the shirt on.
She's very
She's
excited
got
to
the
be
shirt
on YouTube.
on and everything. We all got our shirts on. Okay.
Aw.
So, anyways, that's why I was an unknown on today. That's where we've been for the last couple of days. So, just thought you'd all want to check it out.
Thanks for sharing, man. Congrats again.
Totally.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting you to join us, so I appreciate it.
We're gonna recalibrate the Harry Madison Maller family complexity scale based on this little one. It'd be awesome.
There's a whole new scale, right? Whole new scale.
Yeah, it's still late a few minutes, so.
The shirt's awesome, man.
Sorry, didn't mean to hijack.
Dude, it's all good. We're just hanging out today.
Totally.
So I hope everything got on video well. I was trying to make sure the Skype thing jumped up, but
Seemed like it showed all of it.
cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. I just realized that my screen is 4K and the stream is 1080, so there's actually stuff that's not fully on screen, but that's okay.
No, it's hilarious. I was actually just having a conversation with a firm about 4K and Revit because they're a firm that's moving to VDI and it works fine, but it's like if you accidentally open Revit and then switch the DPI and the scaling, you have to like restart or log out and log back in before Revit will stop freaking out, which is hysterical.
Yeah, man, the scaling is brutal, and I'm sure everyone on the line can sympathize. I actually dropped I got rid of the Surface from my Uber portable laptop for two reasons. One, for the scaling issue, and then the other because I wanted a graphics card. So I actually been trying out. People are always interested in what machines we're using, so I've been trying out. You guys have probably seen all these ultra portables that are coming out now. They're super thin, trying to be like the size of I don't know, you just want to say Chromebooks and stuff. And so this is actually from Gigabyte, so it was less than $1,500 I think on Amazon, and it's got a 1060, so it's a 6 gigabyte graphics card. It's got an i7, and I bumped it up to 32 gigs of RAM. So I have to say I'm pretty impressed with. I mean, it's 14 inches. Look how thin that thing is, and it's got a GTX 1060. I mean, I'm pretty impressed so far. So that's a Gigabyte Aero 14X.
That's a decent graphics card too, yeah. That graphics card will run Lumion, actually.
That's part of the reason why I got it, because I couldn't launch Lumion or Enscape on my Surface, and it was annoying me.
Totally.
So far I've had it for about 3 or 4 months. I plan on doing a review on the blog, but everyone's always interested in what PCs we're using, so I figured I'd share.
Heck yeah.
For ultra portables, right? And I know I've seen the box machines you're using, so that's my typical powerhouse type of.
Yeah, we've got the Bimbox machine.
Bimbox. So I've got an Origin which is similar makeup.
Okay. Yep.
And
very similar.
And that's the the powerhouse, but it weighs what, 9 pounds or something like that without the power supply. So it's nice to have something a little more portable.
Yeah, totally. Oh,
sweet. So I guess let's try and get a little formal. We don't have to be formal. It's a happy hour, but I wanted to thank John and Aaron for coming on. John. Actually, maybe I'll pull you guys' faces too, so everyone's on screen. Let's do that. Ah, look at that. As John takes a swig. There we go. So it's kind of funny because it was only in October, John, when I did the first little audio interview on the blog, and we chatted a little bit, and you were not part of Parallax team at the time, so a lot has changed since then. And and when I saw that, I thought it'd be kind of a cool opportunity. So, as you know, DIY Dynamo is enrolling this week. Sort of coincidentally, I didn't actually realize that I didn't even pay attention to the fact that Revit was going to be dropping this week as well. So I don't know if I would have done it in the same week, but I thought it'd be kind of cool. Maybe first we can talk a little bit maybe about Parallax team and what you guys do, because I've seen some of the stuff online and I think people will be interested. And then we'll chit chat about. I thought it'd actually be kind of interesting to chat maybe about Revit 2019, since how often do we have the three of us who are plugged in on the week that it drops, and maybe give our initial reactions before we really take a few months to figure out how much crap we don't like or do like.
There you go.
So I don't know if you guys want to just quickly talk about Parallax team and what you're up to. And do you want? I don't know if you want.
Yeah,
you
sure.
don't want anything on your screen to share right this second, right? Or do you?
No,
Okay.
I'm watching the YouTube, so that would be kind of weird if it would start doing the tunnel vision thing.
Well, here you go. I'll just
so-
open your website like that. How about that?
So a number of years ago, I obviously my background started out in architecture, I kind of ended up using Revit after a number of other firms where I'm from New York originally, and that's important because upstate New York, the economy is terrible, or it was at the time. So I ended up in a digital project firm, and then I ended up in a Vectorworks firm, and then I ended up in an ArchiCAD firm, and finally I ended up in a Revit firm. So I was doing architecture for a while, and then just as time went on, I ended up in Texas working for Beck, design build. Doing a lot of great stuff with Revit, and design build is like the dream, right, for us, at least for what we do, because you get to like help the architecture team build it and then leverage it in construction. It was freaking awesome. And then as the years went on, there's the Revit community is such a great place, and a lot of people were like, hey, the stuff that you're doing at Beck, do you also help other companies do it? Do you also do this like on the side and stuff? But it's really hard to have an everyday job and then also be doing stuff on the side. So it just kind of got to be that time to kind of branch out and start, a company where we can help other firms with anything that they want to implement in terms of, some of our firms or some of our clients are architects and they just want to have better products and better drawings and better models. And some of our clients are contractors who want to be able to leverage these models better. John and I think we have it, and I'll let John talk about, his background and what he's into, which is obviously a lot more exciting than the stuff I do. It's
relative. Come on, it's relative.
Yeah,
Aaron.
I obsess over small details, which means I love what I do, but I love being like knee deep in the weeds, doing all the unsexy stuff for a lot of my clients. I mean, building content, building Revit templates, which can sometimes be thankless, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy going to a client's office and getting into a nitty-gritty conversation with an ops manager who's like, listen, our specs say this and our drawings don't reflect that and we need to fix that. This can't go on. Like, I love that. I'm all about it. But before I'm gonna talk for a minute because I talk a lot, obviously. But
That's what we love about you, Aaron.
I really enjoy when people ask how John and I met, because I think it's a really interesting story. Is like Dynamo hit the scene, and I looked at this thing and I'm like, what the hell? Like, who in the hell is going to have the time to learn this thing? Yep. And so like the first 5 years it was out at Beck, I was like, forget it. I was like, there's no way I'm even messing with this because I just can't. And then it was like, okay, I would read online that it could do something, and it was something that either me or a client really needed to do. And I remember John just emailed me one day, and it was something totally silly that I was trying to do. And it was actually for Allison, my wife. She's an architect of 15 years, and she was doing some building ComCheck stuff, and she's, I need all these square footages, and I can't get them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I've read somewhere Dynamo can do that, and I just happened to email John, and he's like, let me show you how this thing works, because it can do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, all right. And then you fast forward a few months, and it's like, then I've got this client who's a big GC, and they're like there's the types of data that they want that those folks of us that worked on the front end of design take for granted is ridiculous. Yeah. I had a general contractor before John joined Parallax say to me, okay, we're about to take 2 interns and give them a stack of drawings and 4 highlighters, and they're going to just highlight in different colors doors that are in masonry or doors that are in metal stud. Mm-hmm. And I'm like a Dynamo reject, can barely get it to work, and I'm pretty sure I can figure out how to do this. And so John and I have a quick conversation, and like this thing's done in an hour.
Right.
And our client is just like, what the hell is this? Like it's crazy. And so anyways, that's how I like to reflect on meeting John. But I'll let John talk about obviously his whole background because it's way more cool than that.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to sum it up for sure. One thing, so I started at an architecture firm doing 3D modeling, content creation, training, things like that 5 years ago now. So that was kind of the first thing I started doing. And then I picked up Dynamo in 2014. And I won't go into it as much detail because we covered that last time for that audio one.
Yep.
But yeah, since 14, I've been a Dynamo user. And then I kind of jumped over to the consulting side because I saw that there were people who wanted certain workflows, and I felt like it was a good way to expose myself to a lot of different things. And started up with Parallax here in February now. So it's been a few months.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of development. So since being at Parallax, not only have I done Dynamo workflows, I'm starting to jump into the realm of apps and having fun that way too. So that's kind of where my interests are, and Aaron supports that a lot. So hopefully we have some cool stuff coming out soon too. Yeah. And our passion's always helping people. So I said it yesterday to Marcelo on a call. We were doing a podcast, and he asked where can you find Aaron and John? Easy. You can find us on Revit forum, on the Dynamo forum, on Twitter. So we like to be very involved in the community, and Aaron shares those same kind of ideals as me. So I think it was a really good connection that we made for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the neat things with this community, the Revit community, so to speak, is I think how accessible everyone is. When you think about it, Paul Aubin and Marcelo and you guys, and it's pretty much you could tweet at us and we'll respond. I mean, and then boom, you're first person connection. I think it's pretty neat. So everyone out there, if you want to tweet at us, we should be able to respond, no problem.
Yeah.
I hope you guys don't get 115 tweets, direct messages or tweets later.
No, I mean, you know what John said is spot on. I mean, obviously, we're not hyper altruistic. I mean, we go to work to get paid. I think if none of us got paychecks, the amount of us that would do what we do for a living currently as volunteers would probably drop significantly. Yeah. But I mean. But aside from that, I mean, the whole social media aspect of the BIM community, I mean, that's how I learned Revit. There were no BIM managers when I got into Revit. It was 2006. And I mean, the Augie forums and the Jim Baldings and the Steve Staffords are where I learned everything that I ever learned about. I mean, aside from completely just jacking up projects, which is really how you
gotta break it and fix it, right? That's what I tell everyone. They're always like, how do you learn Revit? I said, just go break stuff. You'll learn it real fast.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Very cool. All right, so it's actually a pretty good segue. First, before I forgot to mention for everyone on the stream, I am going to be at the end of this stream. I've got a Dynamo script that's going to run and randomly pick one of you as a winner for a free enrollment in DIY Dynamo. So I'm gonna post the and I'll also go through how I made the script because I'm sure everyone's interested, but. I'm going to post the link now in the chat. If you haven't registered already, just go over there to Google Form, just register so your name's in there. But I think it's kind of I was excited to have you on, Aaron, because my sort of, I don't want to say introduction to Dynamo, but sort of the epiphany or aha moment involves you, and I think you'll remember this. So it was at RTC. And so at the time, I was kind of similar to where you were talking about, where you were working with the GC at the time. But I was working. This is when I first started working for a construction manager, and it was right around. I want to say it was 12 or 13. What do you remember when the first DynaWorks package, when Adam did the first? What RTC do you think that was? 12, 13? Melbourne?
It was the year before Melbourne because he did a lab on it in Melbourne.
Okay, so RTCNA would have been before Melbourne. It was 12 or 13, maybe?
I think it was 12. I think it was 12. Yeah.
So I remember Dynamo was just. I remember a few earlier classes when it was Vasari and you were some cool stuff, conceptual, but it was just really starting to grab traction just as I went over to the CM side. So immediately I saw it, and I'm thinking about all the awesome ways as an architect I could have used it for construction documents, but now I'm not doing construction documents anymore. And so I remember sitting in the class. You were in the same class with Adam Sheether, and he introduced Dynaworks, and he showed like three or four scripts of connecting like clash points to a model and this and that. And I remember you and I think, were the ones who asked like 16 questions at the end. And that moment was when I realized, oh, I can use this for a ton of different things. And then I learned Dynamo literally that week. And that's from there on now. I mean, 20, 30, 40 scripts later at Turner using Dynamo on the CM side. But I remember. Do you remember that class?
I do. I remember the exact class I saw Dynaworks in. I especially loved it because, I mean, I remember I attended his lab of Dynaworks in Melbourne when he actually showed that. Well, I don't know if I haven't announced this, but it was kind of funny because he showed that if you had already set up your clash sets in an NWF file, you could run them in Dynaworks through Simulate instead of Manage, which was really funny.
Yep.
Do you think they've closed that hole, or?
I don't know.
We've just publicly announced it, so we'll see. Adam's gonna tweet you later. What the hell, man?
I mean, look, I am not a designer by nature. I watched folks who came into architecture, at the same time I did, and obviously we all know that people have a lean either towards more management and documentation or design. And so I don't mind owning that I'm not one of those people who like makes really cool wavy stuff and like I'm not the inspiration behind the project. But I mean, Dynamo as a vehicle, the amount of stuff that I get to tell people can be done now just because of this vehicle, like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
In a good way. It's Beck is still one of my biggest clients, and I'm sitting there with their project team on a job site, and they're like, it'd be great if we can do this, and I'm like, we can. And they're like, it'd be great if we can do this, and I'm like, we can.
Yeah.
And I mean, and to be fair, whenever I say we can, I am John, and I'm like, can you do this? Because I can.
So I told these people that we could do this.
No,
now you need to figure out how.
I usually I am him first, and I say I tell them I think we can do it.
Right. Awesome. So on that note, I know. Flip over. I know just from Twitter and some stuff that John's been sharing. I think it sounds like you guys are doing some neat things, and maybe we'll let some folks on the chat ask some questions while John or you demonstrate some of the cool stuff you're doing with Dynamo. I know I saw some neat things, but the one big thing tends to be, how do I apply this to my everyday life? And usually showing examples, even if it's not related, usually spurs ideas of other relations. And so I think maybe if one of you wants to sort of show some of the neat stuff that you've done, whatever you're comfortable showing on a live stream to sort of get people rolling, and then maybe people have some questions on the chat that we can sort of try and respond to on the fly.
I nominate John.
All right, let's make sure we get the video set up for this too. I'll pull up Skype here. Looks like John's screen is being shared. Or is that Aaron's screen? Whose screen is that?
That should be mine.
That's John's. I'm like, wow, I hope it's not mine. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, so let me make sure that the whole screen is in here for everybody. And this is going to be interesting because we're going Skype through streaming, but we'll get this to work. Let's see. There we go. Let me get Aaron's head stop floating.
Sorry.
There we go.
You can like just push my head out of me.
I'll put the heads over there. Perfect. So it looks like that should be pretty good in the screen. So yeah, I think everything's on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and sort of moderate the chat and just keep going, and I'll maybe interrupt if there's any individual questions. But I think showing some neat examples of some of the stuff you're doing, I think, would be pretty valuable to everyone.
Hey, while John is getting set up for that live demo, can I throw out one shameless plug real quick?
Because man.
Let
me put your face back on.
Well, so I mean, we've been talking about the BIM community and the social media nature and how giving everybody in the community is, and like I said, I basically learned through the Augie community, and now there's Twitter, and there's of course Revit forum, which is where I spend a lot of my time. If you're not aware, right now is the once a year fundraiser that we have to do to keep Revit forum running, because it is basically run by volunteers, and when the website was originally set up, the 5 original co-founders really wanted to not have advertisements on that forum at all.
Yep.
So we're 68% of the way there, which
nice,
means
nice.
I mean, if everybody on this call gave like $2 or maybe it's more like $5, but whatever. If you have a few spare bucks to give, if you head over to Revit Forum, we're just trying to cap out the expenses for the year. So.
Yeah,
I throw that out there.
No, that's a good point. I second that, and I'm assuming everyone in this call have probably been to Revit Forum once. If not, make sure you go and sign up. It is a phenomenal community of tons of Revit knowledge, and everyone that you would want to ask a Revit question to exists on there. So, if you don't know who to talk to or where to search on the Augie forums, for example, or in the help or something, I can guarantee you that if they can't answer it, they can point you to someone who can. So. And myself, everyone on this call trolls the forums. Aaron's very active on the forums. I know that. I go on from time to time. I haven't been on in a little while just because I've been in the trenches. But yeah, I mean it's an easy. What is it? It's usually only what, like $3,000 a year or something when you think about all the members. That's not too bad. And so if you want it to be completely member run and no ads, which is awesome. And if you want it to run faster than something like Revit City and all that garbage over there, then feel free to go over and donate a couple bucks. It's definitely worth it. I do every year, and I'm sure most of us do because we know the value there.
Totally.
Oh, and also it had a little makeover recently, right? When was that?
It did. That was like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, finally got rid of the purple.
the purple is gone, and then a bunch of people were like, "Hey, the logo is bad too." And I think it was actually Scott Davis. I think.
Oh, really?
I think it was Scott Davis who like tossed up a new logo image in a thread where we were all like, "The purple's ugly," and then they made a couple modifications to Scott's logo, and boom, there it is, community-driven logo.
Yeah. So wait a second. The Autodesk guy is telling us to change logos. Hold on a minute.
Hey now.
Oh man, I don't know if you saw the little tweet thing between Philip Chan and I, but my goodness, they really should think about changing colors. Actually, even on my screen, I'm looking at the bottom right now, and the 4 R's in a row that are all blue and look the same that's just unfortunate.
So I think you can't see them on John's machine right now, and that's a complex issue of his machine and my machine being in different cities. But we actually have different logos for 16, 17, 18.
Yep, I made a yellow, an orange, and a blue one as well myself.
Nice.
Which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but I mean, at least put the number next to it,
Yeah, they just got an 18 and a 19 on them for us. But
yeah. Cool. So you all set, John?
I think so.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I think everyone sees your screen, which is good.
Awesome. And I was kind of looking through the chat window. David has one question saying, "What would you recommend as a first thing to show to WoW management?" So that's kind of a typical.
That's a pretty good question.
So I think that one's a really good one. And I'll try to touch on it throughout this. For instance, the first thing you do not show management is like making something crazy. Let's see if I can find it fast. I'll show you what you don't show management first. Let's see. Come on now. There it is. The first thing you don't show management is a Nintendo 64 logo that you modeled. Let's see if I still have it in there. Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
So that's not the first thing you show management.
Right.
There's actually a 64 vertices, so I thought that was kind of funny.
Look at that.
Because it's the Nintendo 64
yeah.
logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So typically you don't show stuff like that. You show stuff that's a little more productive.
Right. Understandable.
A lot of the times whenever I think of how to explain Dynamo, it's a good translator between things. So I would find something that you hate doing manually and fix it. Fix it through Dynamo. I know one of the biggest things is knowing a problem to solve. That's kind of, ideas are super valuable. But I think if you've used Revit long enough, there's something that you're like, it sucks to do X, Y, Z, in Revit. So just kind of start to do things like that. And the first time I saw Dynamo, we were in a presentation where someone showed a bridge that was all twisting and cool. It was a cool piece of geometry. But that was like in 2014, 2013. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. We should be using this for other reasons. And
Right.
someone at the time was like, we don't do stuff like that, so no thanks.
Yeah.
And then later on, it was like, well, we can actually do all this other cool stuff
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, and I think to sort of add to it, I think the reason the cool stuff doesn't, and there's value in the cool stuff, but when you're talking to let's say management, I think it all comes down to numbers, right? And so I think the only way you can prove the value is to say, hey, it took me 3 days to do this normally, and now it took me 3 minutes. And that's the kind of stuff where, I mean, you can't. There's not a single manager out there that would say, that's a terrible idea.
For sure. Yeah, so I think just to kind of jump into it a lot of the time when we're building workflows, we'll bundle them in either a Python script or something in the graph, or we'll publish them into Rhythm, which is my custom package. Recently, I've actually been working on some nodes that do some kind of interesting things, and I think Jeff, you showed it in the first DIY Dynamo or you showed it before at least.
Mm-hmm.
Filter by Boolean mask.
Yep.
Like one of my favorite nodes ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I use it so much that I'm kind of tired of using it. Actually,
You're bored with it.
So I was thinking of ways to actually filter things out better. So like if we were to like just do a categorical collection. So what we'll do is we'll do it. I'm wondering. We'll do it through the old way. And we'll do categories. So categorical collection, collect all the place stuff in my model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that. We'll hover, pin it. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times if I want to filter this out by like the name contains something, and I'm just in the sample model right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I were to find a wall and it contains interior or starts with interior.
Yep.
The way that you typically do that is you extract some data from the wall. So element name gives you string data type. And then you can do other things like string.starts with.
Yep. And start filtering.
So you start to build this out, yeah. And then you can filter that out. So I've been working on nodes recently that aren't published yet, but you can literally just filter by a name.
Mm.
So you put the elements in,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll filter by starting with interior.
Yep.
And then I just have to tell it how to filter. And if I hover, it tells me options that I can use. So I can type in starts with, ends with, does not start with, things like that. So if I type starts with, I can type right. Well, now get a filtered down list of walls.
Yep.
I'll look at the name.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1, 2, 3 nodes versus like 10 nodes. So it's kind of a lot of times when I'm building tools, I want it to speed things up.
Yeah,
but
and
then there's like go ahead.
I was just gonna say that also. I think that helps. A node like that helps explain the concept better. I mean, I know when I was developing the DIY Dynamo stuff, I know the value of the filter thing, and it took me quite a bit to figure out the way to present that content in an understandable fashion. Because it's when you first look at it, it is hard to understand. Once you get it, you're like, oh, it makes sense. But this is much more simple. It's like you have elements going in, you're searching for this, and this is the method you're searching with, instead of like 14 nodes, and then explaining that all those nodes do exactly that one node.
Definitely, yeah. So one thing that while I was working on these that I was kind of struggling with is a lot of times I don't want my users of my nodes having trouble with them. So like, let's say someone comes in and spells this wrong, I want it to still work. So it actually still works. This is actually using something that I learned from the community as well. So if I do all these different cases, I'll misspell it even, it'll still find the filter method.
Wow.
So what it's doing is it's actually a process called, I think it's called fuzzy string matching that I learned from the Dynamo forum. So if we go to Dynamo BIM, I'll open up the window. There was actually a blog post that was awesome, and it like opened up my mind to doing comparisons. So Kyle Martin and Eric Rudisile, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Rudisile. They did this whole blog post on being able to match strings to other strings using some algorithms that are out there that you can use, which is pretty awesome. So I actually nested that algorithm into my node, and I'm using this one, the Levenstein distance specifically, to where if you try your best and like it doesn't work or something, like it's not spelt right or something, it'll actually find the other way. So that one does not start with.
Wow. That's pretty neat.
So
And you're not sitting there and baking in every combination of a misspelling, right? That's an algorithm that does it for you. Is that how it works? Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, so what it does, it actually it'll grade. It grades the input string against all the possible strings, so it gives it a grade, and the lowest grade wins. Is kind of how it works.
Wow.
But the implications and the use cases of this are huge.
Right.
For architecture, because I don't know how many times I've seen the word elevations on drawings.
Yeah, it's construction. I always spell wrong too.
Yeah.
And ceilings, I before E.
Exactly. So yeah, building these kind of things in, it makes the nodes a little more usable and flexible, which I really like as well. So that's something that's coming soon. I had some element filter nodes in a package I used to publish previously that was depreciated or deprecated. And it was literally like 12 nodes to do what this one node does now. So it's kind of exciting.
Right. No, that's awesome.
That was like,
that's really
yeah,
neat.
that's like what's on my mind this week.
Yeah, and it, like I said, it helps even teaching Dynamo. It even helps to have these easier methods.
Definitely. Yeah. And even then, like case sensitivity of parameters. So like if we were to, I imagine doors have parameters in the sample model.
Yep.
If I were to type rack instead of mark, and I'll take out that colon, it should get the mark.
Nice. That's awesome.
So now we're starting to look at all the parameters and figure out what the closest match is. So these kind of things, like when it comes to like case and sensitivity and things like that, it's really nice. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's really cool. So
then
I guess maybe if you have a quick example of just some sort of, I don't know, something maybe recently you worked on that helped, let's say, a productivity script or something. I don't know if there's anything at the top of your mind that you can think of, just to sort of give people an example of, hey, this is something that Dynamo helped somebody save time on.
Oh man, that's funny. I was just actually typing a whole bunch of those in the chat window.
I see that Aaron's killing the chat window right now.
They're all ones that John made that are just like, and it's yeah. This one is insane.
Is this the views on sheets?
Yeah, so this will actually like pack views on a sheet and follow around the title block. That's one that we had a client need as well. So what it'll do is it'll pack all the views it can, and then you go back and refine it.
Now, does that also create it if you is that after the fact, or is that placing them on sheets too, using that packed sort of algorithm or whatever?
So you feed in a sheet and then all the views that you want to try to put on the sheet, and then it'll just try. There's an out of the box node that does it to where it creates a sheet for you.
Right. Yep.
But if it fails, it's like all of it fails and you don't get anything. So, like I said, we kind of like to build stuff to where it's a little more flexible too.
Yeah. Definitely. I think everyone can relate to creating sheets and placing views on sheets and that process.
and this is kind of neat because I mean, so when John talks about the client need, like what you're looking at in the animation is obviously that we're manually picking the rooms, but basically this client said, well, look, it's going to be every room in the project that is in this certain, let's just call it category of rooms. And so, I mean, in John's original graph, it was like, well, let's just assume that we're gonna use his previous method to filter down to specific room objects, and then kick them into this thing. And he's like, yeah, automatically elevate them and then automatically shove them on the sheet. Like this is weeks for that client. Like it's not even days. I mean, this particular client's doing 35-story tall city block sized buildings.
Right.
And they're just hemorrhaging hours on placing views on sheets.
Yeah, and when you think about that, and you think about what Revit and BIM should be, it's disappointing that the normal way is still sitting there and churning on this arduous process that shouldn't even be arduous.
Other things are like we create a lot of content at Parallax, so we have to elevate it and things like that. So placing hundreds of door panels sucks. So even for our own internal use, we want to speed things up as well. So Aaron kind of was like, "Hey man, I don't want to place all this stuff." So we worked out a graph, and we use it all the time internally.
So and this has super far-reaching effects. I mean, a bunch of us in the community have been talking about using the previous phase legends for years. So and I'm in the school of thought that I don't mind having every one of my door panels elevated, whether they're used in the project or not. But this lets us install a template at a client's office and say, hey, you know what? If you don't like having every door panel elevated, this thing can find out which of our nested panels are used in your project, make a list of only those panels, and place those elevations on the sheet automatically.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just instant hours saved.
Definitely.
And then these ones I just showed the animation of because I don't have those files open.
That's all good. I think the whole idea is I want people to see ways that it's being used. I think, and I talk about this on the blog every once in a while. I call it peripheral Dynamo, and it's just the one thing I realized when I started learning it is like you might take an example from a forum or something, and you're sort of charging through it, and then you realize as you're doing it, oh wait, I could use it for this. Oh wait, I could use it for that. And it's like 2 nodes, and all of a sudden, you're using it for a completely different purpose. What the hell was that?
You haven't seen this yet?
I think I did. I think I saw it on Twitter.
You can actually...
It's bizarre.
This is not super useful. Don't show this to your boss first.
What would be the point of that? With like a little
thought, you could kind of do random stuff.
Maybe
this actually led to...
A portrait like if you use a portrait monitor, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. But what this actually led to, and I think we have a few of the beta testers on the chat window, we have an add-in that the longer you don't synchronize with Central, your ribbon turns more red now.
Yes.
So that was actually born out of me playing around with this
playing around with what the ability. It's kind of funny and so that's baked in the API, the ability to do that.
Yeah, so actually
it's kind of funny. Why on earth would they make you rotate the ribbon in the API?
It's actually a Windows thing, like from Windows, and Jeremy Tamik is the one who introduced it. So I learned it from there, and then I baked it as some Dynamo nodes. That was kind of the idea. And it turned into something very useful. So I always like to show this stuff where you're having fun too, because it can lead to something very useful.
I remember seeing the Save the Central one, and that's definitely a good idea.
So now, is that totally true story about this, by the way. Our server has like a bunch of different shares on it, and for a number of reasons, like here's a quick example. Our Revit template exists in like 3 locations. It's in the share we use every day, it's in the share for stuff we distribute to clients, and it's also on our C drives for when we travel. And one day, like a dummy, I opened the wrong one and spent 4 hours editing it on my C drive, and the next morning the changes were gone. Now, everyone's done something silly. Oops, I was in a detached model. I wasn't in the correct central, whatever. So, John knocked out a really quick add-in. My ribbon turns colors based on which directory the file is in that I'm working on. If my ribbon
That's
turns
awesome.
like bright red, I'm like, hey, stupid, you're in the wrong file. And,
no, that definitely is valuable, especially because as you know, all the different server setups. I mean, we have we have an NAS drive that is the most unreliable thing I've ever dealt with in my entire life, and so that one particular drive, it's like a Buffalo drive or something, and for some reason I know, and so we're in the process of getting a different one, but it drops out all the time on us, and so I mean, I know I'm a chronic saver, but it's still to have that reminder and sort of force the issue it can't be a bad thing.
Well, and I mean, obviously I have a reputation for being a little standoffish, but one of the questions I get asked the most by BIM managers and not by the staff is they're like, well, listen, I can't convince management that the staff needs to save more than once an hour, or I can't convince management that the staff's not saving. So I said, you know what, at the risk of sounding snarky, put this on the machines and tell management, hey, every time you see a red ribbon, somebody doesn't care if they lose your money.
There you go. Yeah, walk around the office and looking at red ribbons the whole way.
Absolutely. Every time you see a red ribbon, somebody hasn't saved your work in an hour. Think about that, Mr. Principal.
No, that's awesome. That's going to be cool to see how that sort of progresses.
see. And I did see something on the chat window about managing packages as well, a question. So like in Dynamo since 1.0, I think they've had this manage node and package paths, which is okay. I personally don't like it very much. I'll just put that out there. I've shot myself in the foot with it a few times during presentations, because the dream is I have a folder at AU while I'm presenting and everyone points to it and it loads packages magically, right? This last AU, this actually failed me pretty bad. So I'm working on something to where a BIM manager has all the packages that they like approve of on their network, and whenever Revit opens, it copies those packages locally on Revit opening. We do other things to where we use Gordon's tools, which Aaron could speak to more, to copy packages as well. But when it's on Revit open, that even eliminates like those users who don't log out for the day, you know, and things like that. I also want to make like an auto updater as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean the solution John came up with is awesome, especially if like you're doing a lot of Dynamo updates day to day, and if this is like the particular problem that you want to solve. Like you are only looking like Gordon's tools at pragmaticpraxis.com are basically deployment and install automation tools. So if you're only looking to solve this Dynamo thing, it's kind of like, it's kind of like a grenade to smoke out a gopher. It's a really overbearing tool. But if you're also looking to solve like deployment issues, basically every time I log onto a computer in the office, it updates packages from the network. And the reason I because somebody in the chat window was asking, can you run them like from a network location? And the reason I like the solution John's come up with, or the solution Gordon's come up with, is running them off the network gets problematic if you take your machine somewhere else. Then you got to remember to copy things. And so if you just automate the mirroring of the stuff to your C drive, you're in a little bit of a better spot, I think.
Definitely. Cool. All right. Well, that's awesome. I think everyone's definitely enjoying the examples. Actually, I think it was I think it might have been in the Facebook group. So there's a Facebook group for those who enroll for DIY Dynamo, and it's a closed group. But I think there was quite a few questions during the last session about deployment and sort of getting it rolling. And I completely forgot about Gordon's website, so I'll have to let them know about that. I'm sure a few of them are in the chat room here, but I forgot he's got quite an array of deployment tools that can be valuable to people.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody that's on the call wants to see how they work, I mean, full disclosure, I mean, Gordon and I just basically bounce ideas off each other, and, we're a customer of his because the tool saves my bacon, and I actually implement it at a number of other firms just to help them through stuff. But if anybody wants to see how it works, just reach out. We'll host like just a lunch and learn go-to meeting thing. You can just take an hour and see a quick demo. It changes the way I think about deploying a lot of stuff because there's a lot of things we do now to get around the fact that deployments require a lot of hands-on stuff, like packages, right? So John called me out on this a couple weeks ago, which I love. There was a time when somebody asked a question about how to do something on Revit forum, and then like John chimed in and he was like, Dynamo could do it, and I kind of like just lost my stuff, because then I was like, yeah, and then you got to like manage Dynamo and install Dynamo and manage packages and teach people how Dynamo works. And basically, I was a huge dick. But those problems, right, like are kind of real, and so it's interesting because now I don't have any problem going to a client and saying, okay, you know what, John made this badass thing. Here's this Dynamo graph that will solve this problem for you. And then my client says, oh my gosh, but now I have to like maintain packages and maintain this. And I say, yep, here's this other tool from Gordon. And yeah, it's like, it's a couple $1,000 or whatever, and then you have it forever. But it like the problem is gone.
Right.
So if anybody wants to check it out, reach out. We'll do a demo.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a resource I'm going to share more. I just, for some reason, I always forget about it when people are asking about deployment. But awesome. Cool. So
and it's timely because 19 just came out.
I know we didn't even get into that, but we don't have to get into that right now. I'm sure there's plenty to say.
I dropped one note on the screen. So Revit 2019, one of the features is when you delete a level, it tells you everything that's going to go with it. It's like a pop-up that happens and says, hey, dude, all this stuff's going to disappear. They actually added the API method in Revit 2018.1. So I'm in Revit 2018.2, but you can actually use that method to say like this level, what's all the stuff that depends on this level, which is a lot of stuff. That's kind of important. So this kind of stuff,
That's
even
wild.
cooler is they added it to the Revit API in anticipation of 2019, but we can use it in Dynamo in 2018.1 and up. You couldn't like use it in 17 or anything, but of course, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's neat.
Kind of cool.
That's neat. That's cool.
One of the features I think is kind of neat is it's gonna help tell people what the heck's going on when they hit delete.
Yeah, I do think that
Does it even warn you?
I don't even know if it warned. Let's see.
It just tells you it's going to be deleted, and it does it.
Yeah, here's what's going to be deleted, and you have no choice but to delete it.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, I know. So that one of the things that was interesting to me when I saw the what's new in 2019 is the fact that you will see the levels now in the 3D views, and so that's something that I don't even know why that took so long to be a function other than the conceptual massing editor. But I can tell you right now, just from teaching the software, to teach the concept of work planes and levels would have been great a long time ago. To sort of just to visualize what's happening. I actually used to jump into the conceptual modeling environment just to sort of teach the concept of a work plane and reference plane and levels. So that's kind of cool. That's a cool little add.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some neat stuff. So for those of you guys who are interested in 2019. I'm sure I'll probably post about it, but Harlan did a good job wrapping it up in here as far as what you really need to know about it. I haven't tested the multi-monitor support yet, so I'll be interested to see how that actually functions.
I've been using it. Yeah, I love it.
I mean, the tab views to me seems like a no-brainer. That's pretty sweet, but I haven't tested the multi-monitor.
It peels off, and basically then you can maximize, obviously, the second one. It works really well. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people are using the rubric of something like a Bluebeam or something like a Chrome, and they initially forget just the amount of legwork that software like Revit's doing that's going to make it feel a little different. But it does completely let you do that. You can rip things off, put them on the second screen. You can then move a tab from one screen to the other screen.
And it leaves the ribbon on one screen, right?
It does. It leaves the ribbon only on one screen. What I like more is that now when you basically, like you'll see in that image right there on the left monitor of that image, when you have two windows tiled inside Revit, the bar between them is now locked, like Navisworks always was and Max always was. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I'm not one of the people who's always said wait for SP1. I've always just deployed right away as long as like my workload allowed. And like this year with 19, I'm really looking forward to pushing it out between the multi-monitors. There's now OR in filters, which is massive.
Yep, I saw that. Yep.
I mean, so that's a big one for me. While it's not a really sexy feature, there's that every object can now have two surface patterns instead of one. Which, I mean, if you work in documentation, that's a big deal because not everybody can print in color. So being able to overlay different hatch patterns is great.
Yep. Yeah. No. There's some neat things. I want to really dig in before I give my opinions on them all.
Totally.
But it does look like there's some neat things. It's kind of funny. I think the fact that there's the subscription model is sort of the basis of design now, so to speak, and the fact that there are so many releases throughout the year, I think it does sort of make the main releases less exciting, but they're still hitting some points, which is good. At least it sounds like they're listening, so good job.
Oh yeah, splitting railings. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Considering the first time you make a staircase, Revit gets the railing wrong, that's going to be really nice to be able to split the railing.
Yeah, I think more and more rail controls and more stair controls are always going to be welcome by everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can tell you right now, the hosting to topography railings and stuff was a game changer in my opinion. That was gigantic, and was 18. Oh, it was phenomenal.
So I'm on the fence. I actually think hosting to shape edited roofs and floors was bigger because I actually completely bailed on Revit Topo like a few years ago, and it was like the best thing I ever did.
I think the reason why I'm at this moment in time I'm so pumped about it is I'm using it pretty extensively for construction logistics and stuff like that, and I'm using
Totally.
I'm using railings to do like freaking retaining wall, temporary retaining wall. I mean, it's instead of exporting to CAD and re-importing and picking lines and stuff. Oh man!
Oh
it's
no,
phenomenal.
totally. So on this big arena that we were working on this year, and I mean that's the project again where John helped me an insane amount with some of the Dynamo stuff, but we had to do a lot of complex landscape modeling, and we had to know that it was correct, and I couldn't get it done with Topo because of the fact that Topo doesn't have an actual bottom in the 3D model.
Yep.
And I found if you haven't seen Miss Schmidt's blog on landarcbim.com, I think that's the right. Let me check that. Make sure I got that right.
Sounds right.
Landarcbim.com. Yeah. So if you haven't been here, I mean, so basically, you can't post an internet link in the chat window, but basically,
I could throw that in, yeah.
she has a series of Dynamo graphs that allow you to replace topography with floors or roofs, and then shape edit them to have all the contour lines, so that you can have solid modeled terrain and then host railings and stuff to it, which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
And then all you have to do is go into your view templates and turn off interior and common edges, and you don't even see all the triangulation.
Yep. I
So,
can
lots
post,
of crazy
I
stuff
can
there.
post links, so I just hit it for you.
Oh, nice.
So there we go.
She'll be, I believe she's actually teaching a class in St. Louis at Built NA as well. Badass stuff, so I would check it out.
Definitely. Yeah, you guys will both be there, right?
Heck yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be too. That'll be fun. Good times. Always good times for those of you who have never been to. I keep calling it. I can't get over RTCNA. I'm sorry. I just keep doing it, man. Built NA 2018. Definitely check it out. It's by far my favorite conference to go to every year.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
John's teaching 2 classes there. I'm going to be teaching 2 classes there. We're setting up a booth in the exhibit hall.
Nice.
And I mean, the booth is just going to be showing crazy animations of fun stuff. And if you want to see some stuff that we've worked on this year, or see some stuff that we have, just swing by. It'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm actually teaching as well. I'm teaching a class called Construction Can Be Sexy, so that'll be fun.
Nice. Nice.
So we're gonna have a good time in there, showing how architects do construction.
Nice.
All right, cool. So it's like 7:05, so I guess we should probably wrap it up. I want to first thank John and Aaron for coming on. This was pretty awesome. I think we had at a maximum we had over 80 people, which is kind of cool in our small little BIM world.
Wow.
Joining and chiming in. The chat was pretty active. Before I finish up, is there where do you want them to find you? I'll post a link definitely to Parallax team. Let's see what we got here. Parallax team, and then I'm assuming Twitter is probably the place you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Parallax team website. Full disclosure, half the website's still not built. I'll own that because
I saw that when I was clicking projects, and I was like, "Oh, let me go back."
We started rebuilding the website a little while ago, and then we got slammed busy. But I mean, yeah, you can always catch John and myself on Twitter, or John's also got his 60-second Revit website and blog, which is still where I find amazing stuff all the time. So.
Oh, John, you remember that thing you did 4 years ago?
So we have a joke in our Slack channel now, because there's when John helps me, and then there's when Classic John helps me, and Classic John is like before he worked here, but I Google something and I find John from 2015, and I'm like, hell yeah!
I'm always like, let's see what that guy had to say.
It's funny with having a website and a blog for so long. I mean, I think I started my first post with 2009. And Classic Jeff helps me still sometimes.
Yep, that's awesome.
I search Google and I find my post from 2010. I'm like, damn it, how did I forget that?
So, like they have the 5 phases of a Revit user, but somebody has to have the 5 phases of correcting yourself, because it's like you find yourself 6 years ago and you're like, why did I do that? That's dumb. And then you start undoing it, and then 2 hours later you're like, oh crap, that's why I did it.
Exactly.
And then you put it back.
That's awesome. So I posted a link to Parallax team. I also posted your Twitter handles. on the chat. So again, I want to thank you guys for coming on. It was awesome. This was a good time. For everyone else in the chat room, as you may know, DIY Dynamo is enrolling this week. I'm closing enrollment tomorrow. I'm doing something different with DIY Dynamo where we actually open and close the enrollment, mainly because I do live webcasts kind of like this for 3 weeks. There's 3 modules, so every week we do a live webcast and we talk about that module. So it's almost like having a little hour class. And so by sort of closing and opening, it makes it a lot easier to do this. I think there's a few people in the chat room that took the session last in October. I know Tom, you're on there, and a few other people, so you can probably vouch for it. But I think it's a good way to learn the software, to hold accountability, and actually do the modules. I know a lot of times when you download, I know I'm the same way. If you download an online course or something like that, you might click the 1 or 2 things you were really interested in, and then maybe you'll get to the other stuff. So this really, it's a 3-week sort of thing. You get the whole package at once. You can watch them all in one night if you want, but it also holds you accountable. There's samples, there's exercises, and then sort of trick your brain into it. So it closes tomorrow at 8 p.m. So definitely, if you're really interested in it, reach out to that. There's also a little bonus with an interview with John. There's other bonus scripts in there as well, and also. I'm going to give away a free enrollment right now. So let's check it out. So for those of you who logged into the Google form and signed up, your names are on a nice list. And I have a Dynamo script here. Of course, I've got to use Dynamo to do a random drawing, right? I might as well.
There you go.
So I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but essentially what's happening here, and in DIY Dynamo, one of the things I did focus on, or not focus on, but there's a module on it but about reading from Excel, because I think that's just one of those things that people find extremely interesting for whatever their daily workflow is. So what this does is it's going to read an Excel file, which is downloaded from my Google Drive. There are nodes to connect to Google Drive if that's what you're into as well. Definitely search for that. And then all it does is it takes the information, it takes your name, and not your email. I'm not going to give everyone's email address out here, but it takes your name, which is number 2 in the sheet. So this is reading the Excel file. This is reading from your sheet. It's reading number 2, which is the column. And then just so you know just so you believe me that it's a random drawing, what it's doing here is it's actually doing shuffling the list of names, and then it's also picking a random value in that list. So we're shuffling twice. We're shuffling the deck. And then all it's going to do is take that information and it's going to dump it into a piece of model text. And so you'll see exactly who won. So let me make sure I'm linking to the latest and greatest Excel sheet so you guys get a fair chance. Let's go to downloads and check for today's date. I just downloaded it. Nope, I didn't. Let me make sure I downloaded it for everyone. That was from 5/13. I don't want anyone to get screwed there. So here's our responses. I'm going to download this. So you can see there it is. It's an Excel sheet. We'll go through the process. I'm going to go find the file path in my downloads. Based on date. There we go. There. That's the file there. Click. You can see it's got however many. I won't show any names. Looks like 99. Oh, we almost got 100 people. How cool would that have been?
Hang on, I can sign up. I haven't signed up yet.
I'll add you afterwards. So I'll click open there. So now it's reading the information. And what it's going to do is the winner is going to be popped into this model text. So when I click run, there we go. Ricardo Pereira. So I've got your email, Ricardo. If you're not on here, I'll shoot you an email and let you know that you've won a free enrollment to DIY Dynamo. If you've already enrolled, I can check, and I'll just refund you your money. So pretty cool, and a nice, neat little way to use Dynamo. One of the things I like doing with Dynamo is doing things beyond architecture and construction too, and so that's kind of a cool example of it. I just realized my head was blocking your name, Ricardo. I apologize. Let me just show it. There you go. All right, nice. So I'll reach out to Ricardo, but everyone else, I wanna thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll be in touch. Aaron and John, again, thanks for doing this. We definitely got to do this some more often.
Thanks for having us.
I think we gotta bring a bunch of people, just bring a group of fun Revit geeks like us to just chit chat for an hour. I think people would love it.
I like it.
Anytime you want.
Yeah, you know it. All right, so thanks everyone, and we'll all be in touch. And I'm gonna sign off of the YouTube, and then we'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful night.